When we talk about hallucinogens, the last thing we think of is honey. But what if I told you that there is a honey so potent that it can make you hallucinate and feel like you are in another world? Today we will go into the mountains of Nepal to learn a well-kept secret, the hallucinogenic honey of the Gurung tribes. A substance that seems magical, but if not controlled can lead to deadly dangers. Mad honey is a rare and valuable type of honey produced in the Himalayan mountains, especially in Nepal, from the nectar of wild white rhododendron flowers. This highly toxic and poisonous plant is coveted by giant Himalayan bees known as Apis laboriosa, who collect the nectar in the spring season to produce a honey that can make you lose your mind. Its color is red, with a viscous consistency and a flavor that has been described as rich and intense, and even spicy and bitter. Still, there are people who have used it as a natural sweetener for teas and yogurts. However, what consumers highlight most about this unique product are the sensations it produces in the human body. From a slight numbness to intense hallucinations, the effects of hallucinogenic Nepalese mad honey depend on the amount and tolerance of each person. Some have even claimed to experience a state of enlightenment or profound visions after ingesting small doses. Sounds mystical, doesn't it? But the explanation is simpler than you might think. Inside these rhododendron flowers, there is grayonotoxin, a chemical compound that, when ingested, affects the nervous system, causing alterations in sensory perception. In addition, some studies claim that mad honey may contain pollen from other species of wildflowers that possess dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, a compound that is nicknamed the spiritual molecule for its psychoactive qualities. Some of the effects of DMT range from visual distortion and optical illusions to the sensation of understanding life and existence. But not everything is rosy. Hallucinogenic honey can also cause vomiting, blurred vision, temporary paralysis, and, in the most serious cases, even death. Therefore, consuming this honey is considered a risky act. Considering all of the above, why would anyone risk consuming something so dangerous? This is where issues such as the beliefs and traditions of a specific culture come into play. That of the Gurung tribes of Nepal. Mad honey is collected primarily by beekeepers from the Gurung tribes. Also known as Tamu, these are a Tibetan ethnic group that primarily inhabits the hills and mountains of the Gandaki province in Nepal. It is in these mountainous regions that Apis laboriosa bees, the largest species in the world, produce this honey in hives hanging on cliffs. Due to these characteristics, collecting hallucinogenic mad honey is dangerous and requires climbing great heights. However, for the mountain communities of Nepal, it is worth the risk, as for them, it is not just a product, but a spiritual element. But you really won't believe the amount of properties that hallucinogenic wild honey has. In many of these villages, it is believed that honey has healing properties and can help connect with the spiritual world. In addition, it is said that some healers use controlled doses of honey to treat ailments such as headaches or rheumatism, even considering that it can strengthen the immune system and prevent diseases. And there are also people who believe that this honey is a rejuvenating elixir and even an aphrodisiac, increasing libido and improving sexual performance in some people. Therefore, it is not surprising that it has a very high price, making it a luxury item that many people try to buy, although it is difficult for both end consumers and the tribe itself to obtain it. If you thought you could go to Nepal and harvest the hallucinogenic Himalayan honey for your own consumption, I think it's time to wake up from your daydreams because nothing could be further from the truth. Hallucinogenic honey can only be harvested under extreme conditions. Himalayan giant bees nest on cliffs at heights of over 90 meters, structures so fragile that members of the tribe must climb almost vertical walls, facing deadly falls and the bees' own stings. Honey hunting, as it is officially called, is so risky that collectors must face entire swarms as they try to collect the honey, all using only traditional tools such as unstable bamboo ladders that reach 40 meters. Once on site, collectors must carefully cut sections of the hives. This work is often done hanging in the air, which increases the danger. To protect themselves from stings, they use smoke, which helps calm the bees and reduce their aggressiveness. It is precisely this behavior of the bees that makes the harvesting process more dangerous, as the hard-working apis can grow up to 3 centimeters and attack in groups if they feel threatened. However, the collectors of the hallucinogenic wild honey of the Himalayas face 2 dangers that are even more worrying than death. The first is oblivion. And although this practice is part of the cultural heritage of local communities, there are fewer and fewer people willing to take the risks necessary to obtain the famous product. Young people have chosen to ignore the tradition that has been passed down from generation to generation, even becoming a ritual that honors their ancestors, to move to nearby communities where they seek different and better paid work opportunities than collecting honey. As for the second danger, it is clear that Nepal's hallucinogenic honey is not exempt from suffering the effects of climate change. According to the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, ICMOD, an intergovernmental body that aims to help mountain people understand and adapt to these changes, there has been a brutal decline in the bee population. This, according to locals, is explained by the little or irregular rainfall that occurs in the area, the use of pesticides on farms that causes the death of several bees that fly to these places, and the commonness of forest fires in the region. This last fact is worrying. According to government figures, Nepal has faced a serious forest fire crisis, with a figure of more than 4,500 cases reported until May of this year. That is why it is not surprising that the hallucinogenic wild honey of the Himalayas has become even more luxurious and exotic than it was. While the price can vary depending on the size of the jar and the seller, a 250-gram jar can cost around $70, which would be approximately $280 per kilogram. But wait, before you reach into your pocket, I think it's wise to mention that science is not entirely convinced that Himalayan Mad Honey has all the healing properties attributed to it. The truth is that, while science has confirmed that mad honey contains grayonotoxins that can cause hallucinogenic effects, its medicinal benefits are questionable. Many of the benefits attributed to it have not been scientifically validated, and therefore more research is still required to fully understand its properties and risks. But, if you have already made the investment and have your jar of hallucinogenic mad honey, keep in mind these safety measures before consuming it for any purpose. Psst! You can also share this video with someone who is thinking about trying this crazy honey. The first thing you should keep in mind is to consult with your trusted doctor whether or not you can consume a honey that has these properties. This is because people with a history of heart problems, hypertension, or pregnant women should avoid consuming it, since honey can cause adverse effects in these conditions. If you already have your doctor's instructions, the second thing you should keep in mind is to maintain a controlled dose. It is recommended to start with small amounts, such as a teaspoon of approximately 5–10 grams, to assess personal tolerance. Higher doses can increase the risk of poisoning. The third goes hand in hand with the second recommendation and is precisely to avoid excessive consumption. Do not exceed the recommended dose, which generally should not be more than 1 tablespoon per day. In some commercial products, it is explicitly warned that you should not ingest more than 1 milliliter per day. Another good practice before consuming this type of honey is to know the symptoms of poisoning. It is important to be alert for symptoms such as dizziness, nausea, vomiting, weakness, blurred vision, and confusion. If these or other symptoms occur, it is crucial to seek immediate medical attention. It is also important to remember that you should not mix wild honey with alcohol or other psychoactive substances, as this can intensify the effects and increase the risk of serious poisoning. And just like any other product of its kind, it is always a good idea to check and purchase wild honey only from trusted and regulated sources that guarantee its purity and quality, as contaminated or adulterated honey can have dangerous levels of grayonotoxins. If you have reached this point, it is clear that you now know more than anyone how fascinating the story surrounding Nepal's hallucinogenic wild honey is. Some say it is a transformative ritual, an experience you will never forget, while others warn that the risks can be very high and that it is not worth risking your life just to satisfy your curiosity. What is clear is that Nepal's hallucinogenic wild honey is not just an exotic product, but a living testimony to the relationship between humans and nature. For the beekeepers of the Gurung tribe, each harvest is an act of respect towards their ancestors, and their survival depends as much on their ability to face the cliffs as on their spiritual connection with nature. Each spoonful of this honey carries with it the bravery of those who face the cliffs and the deep respect for nature that permeates every step of this practice. They have learned to live with this unique honey, blindly trusting in its healing properties that both locals and foreigners attest to. And although the demand for this exotic honey continues to grow around the world, the risks of its consumption and the threat to Himalayan bees put this centuries-old tradition in danger. That is why the next time you hear about the hallucinogenic honey of Nepal, remember that behind this sweet, there is a legacy full of mystery, value, and a deep connection with nature. Perhaps the question we should ask ourselves is not whether it is worth trying, but how much we would be willing to risk to preserve this legacy. If you enjoyed this fascinating story, don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel to discover more stories like this. Let us know in the comments if you would dare to try this honey or what other secrets of the natural world you would like to know. Also, don't forget to share the video and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more of these fascinating stories. See you next time.